Thank you. So this session is about the short initiatives call for projects. We will have different parts in the session. This is the opening of the session. We will have a presentation on the general information related to Vlereuwes and the call that will be given by myself. My name is Peter Delannoy. Later, there will be a possibility to have some questions and answers, but also if you put your questions in the chat, my colleagues will already provide follow-up via the chat. There will be a presentation on connecting inspiring project ideas by my colleague Laura Uaze. If there is time, we will also have a Q&A for that, but if there is time, there will also be a very short break just to reorganize ourselves to then start with the financial guidelines session, which will be given by my colleague Geraldine Mabbe, and also there with the possibility of a Q&A. And the ambition is to finalize the session in maximum 2 hours, but maybe we will go quicker, but that is the maximum length of the session. So I will be starting. I think most of you know what our organization stands for. We are Vlereuwes. We are part of the Flemish Inter-University Council. And in fact, we are a platform of all Flemish higher education institutions, universities and universities of applied sciences and arts. And we are a primary funding body for scholarships and partnerships in the context of academic cooperation for global sustainable development. At this point, we are fully funded by the Federal Development Cooperation budget of Belgium. We have an annual budget of 32.5 million euros. This is an overview of our Flemish partner institutions, so the universities and the Universities of Applied Sciences and Arts. I will not mention them all, but any kind of project proposal of a person, an institution in the Global South will always be in relation with one of these institutions. We actually stand as an organization for sharing minds, changing lives. And we believe that higher education can play a very important role towards realizing Agenda 2030. And this by driving positive changes in society, by training students to become critical and resilient global citizens, and also by organizing projects, activities to let's say to give sustainable answers to global and local challenges. And we do this via two axes, two types of change makers, in fact, our scholarships and our partnerships. Partnerships you can understand as our projects. Scholarships, I already said it, training students to become critical citizens and to become agents of change in their environment, in their context. And then partnerships, the projects, strengthen institutions in the Global South and strengthen them also as drivers of change in local, regional, international contexts. Vlereuwes is more than just about academic cooperation or academic funding. Really, the idea is that all projects that are funded by Vlereuwes always engage towards societal impact through uptake of knowledge and applications into practical solutions, into policies. We have different kinds of programs. Today, we will only be talking about one specific program, which is the short initiative program, and then the specific call that has been launched a week ago. Also important to say is that, I already said, we are working towards Agenda 2030. Higher education plays an important role. Now we try to realize this also via the mainstreaming of the SDG principles in all our actions and operations, and also projects. They will be asked to align with these SDG principles, interconnectedness, leave no one behind, and multi-stakeholder partnerships. This will be explained further on also in the next presentation. Also important to say is that we expect projects to follow to uphold a number of standard partnership principles, such as attention for diversity, equality, and inclusivity, equal and mutually beneficial partnerships, decent work, research ethics, and respect for human rights and integrity. Now, towards the call, let's move to the call information. I think for those that don't know it yet, short initiatives are about short-term projects. We believe them to be impactful. They are initiated by teams of academics, but it's about academic collaborations focusing on sustainable development challenges, but involving other actors and stakeholders, and if possible, in structural collaborations that we call multi-stakeholder partnerships. There are a lot of aims and approaches are possible within these projects. Projects can be more about exploration, but it's also possible that certain projects build upon others or are more about valorization. The focus can be more educational oriented, research oriented, or it can even be focusing on higher education management systems, for instance. Important is that there is always an uptake into policies and practices. SI projects are 2 activity years, always starting the 1st of September and running along what we say the Flemish, our academic years, so 2 activity years. 70,000 euros maximum is the budget that can be awarded. And it's the call is open for 18 partner countries. Now, who can apply? So the applicants are always linked to Flemish and partner higher education institutions. So at the Flemish level, a promoter is a professor with a minimum of 10% ZAP. That's a technical status here in Belgium, or a specialist at a Flemish university, or a professor lecturer at the University of Applied Sciences. For the details, you can go and look into the call. At the partner level, it's also a promoter needs to be employed by a recognized higher education institution or national public research institute in one of the project partner countries. Important is that other actors are not officially promoters. They do not co-sign. So MSP partners, for instance, NGOs, they can be a team member or a sort of a co-promoter, but they cannot be a main promoter. They're not co-signing. We are contracting higher education institutions at this point. Also, a limitation is that applicants that already have other ongoing team or SI projects, they need to be careful because you can only have maximum 2 ongoing SI and team projects, meaning that those that now have an ongoing Team 2022 or Team 2024 as a main promoter, both in Flanders and in the Global South, they have to reduce the number of proposals that they can submit by the one that they have. So if you already have one ongoing team project, you can only submit maximum as a promoter 1 SI 2025. Also important to say is that we have a number of large long-term institutional cooperation projects. The institutions that are engaged in those RUCs are also eligible, but they will need to explain in some point why they are proposing a new project and how it aligns with the IUC, but that comes back later. The countries, I think, are the ones that are listed here. 18 countries, I'm not going to read them all, but I would highlight that there is a new country on board, and that is Palestine, which will technically be put within the Asian region and also be followed up on by the Asian Selection Commission meeting. But so that is new as compared to the previous years. In terms of selection procedure, projects will be evaluated along a number of standard selection criteria, relevance and coherence of the project, the quality of the project design, implementation setup, and potential impact and sustainability. All these criteria are described by a number of descriptors. You can find that in the call. That information is there. I will not go into detail. I already said projects are assessed by selection commissions, regional selection commissions. We have 4, actually divided the Africa Commission into 2 commissions because of the very high number of proposals that we are getting from the African region. So, and many more countries also. So we had to divide that into 2. For this call, there are 40 selectable project proposals overall, and the number of selectable projects per commission will depend on the number of submission rates per country, per commission basis, actually. In terms of the timeline, call has been launched last week. Today is information session. Important is that the deadline is the 20th of February 2025, and that you look at it, that there is an hour which is mentioned there. It's at 17 hours Central European time, so Belgian time. So this is important to take into account. Effective projects that would be selected before the end of April will be notified in May, but will be able to start as of 1 September. Now, let's go to the formats. First, I would like to say that an application for a project is submitted via the online platform, an online platform. That is, we will also organize later on, but that will be most probably in November. We will communicate on that, some technical sessions for how to use the tool. Now, an application involves always a Flemish and one or more partner promoters in the Global South. And it's actually, and at the end, it's the Flemish promoter that submits to the ICOS, which is the institutional coordinator for, let's say, academic development cooperation at the level of a Flemish institution. He will submit, he or she will submit to the ICOS that will provide support and quality control. That's why it's important to know that don't wait until the 20th of February. You have to check within the Flemish institutions what are the internal deadlines to come up with a proposal and so forth. So it has to be well in advance to be able to submit. So this ICOS plays a central role in the application support and validates before submitting to VLIR-US. And at the level of the Universities of Applied Sciences and Arts, there is also the Global Engagement Officer who plays a supporting role, but always in relation to the ICOS of the Flemish University Association. The call and the formats, they're available on the website. The website has been renewed. This call document is a standalone document where you find all the information. Most of it you can also read on the website, by the way. The format, I already said the information has to be inputted into a tool, but there is a Word format, which is a sort of a working document where you can prepare the information that you will need to later on input in this submission tool. It has a number of guiding questions that we will come back to. There are some annexes involved, an annex with general information on the team members, where you have to do also some coding of links with SDG, etc., and where there is an operational plan. Come back to that. The annex number 2 is the budget file, the specific format which needs to be followed. Annex 3 is the fact that this is a free format, but let's say we are expecting the CVs of the main promoters and the Flemish side and in the Global South. Not the co-promoters, but the main partner promoters. We have a preference for accessible online links, but not online links where we access them and we need to enter a password or whatever. So an accessible online link, for instance, the ORCID unique identifiers, which are very much used already nowadays. Also an important one, Annex 4, the endorsement letter of the partner institutions that are involved. It is at the local side, so not from the Flemish institution. This endorsement letter, one per main partner institution, is important because it explains that there is institutional support for this proposal. It refers to the employment link of the main partner promoter, so that is important. So this institutional support element and the employment link. And the letter should not be signed by the person, her or himself, but by an authority at the faculty level. So if the promoter is an authority, he will need to find a higher level authority, but not sign himself. All proposals follow through our different programs, follow 8 basic modules by which the information is organized. Context, project strategy, stakeholders, planning and budgeting, risk management, monitoring, and learning and steering. We will go through them and explain to what extent these are important for this SI application. But first, before entering those modules, when you go, you will see that in the Word format and in the tool, you will need to provide a project title, a project summary of 1,000 characters, and indicate in which countries the project will be organized. And there you always need to indicate also a main country. That is important for technical reasons mainly. So you can have 3 countries, but you have to indicate a main country. Now, also, you will be asked to mark a sector code of the OECD classification. So where you can, let's say, be quite specific on around which sector your projects will be working. And you are asked to mark the main and additional SDGs to which the project is linked. Now, the modules. Module number 1 is the context analysis. It has 2 parts: sustainable development context and institutional context of the partner institution of the organizational context in a way. This whole section is about creating a broader, shared understanding of the system in which the desired change is needed. So it actually justifies, this context analysis justifies the relevance or the importance of your projects. It will be clear on the scope of the project and contextualize the reason why the project is needed. So it will link up also with the type of challenges, problems, and risks that are involved. Sustainable development context, there it's important always to make this connection with the key sustainable development challenges, with Agenda 2030, with the global, regional, local specific context that is important. Important national policies, for instance, in the topic that you're working on, the main actors that are involved. So there are some key questions here. Why is a project needed? What are the key challenges? What problems do you want to tackle? And here it's important to remember what we said in the beginning, that we want you to integrate the SDG principles into our operations, into the project proposal. So in particular, when you deal with the context analysis, of course, but also in the later modules, take this on board. We have also a methodological guide where there are some examples given, but for instance, at level of the context analysis, have you identified which groups are at risk of being left behind within the intervention area would be a possible question that you ask yourself and that your context analysis gives an answer on. Interconnectedness, have you gained solid understanding of the important interlinkages? MSP, understanding of the relevant actors that are in relation to the proposal. So these are elements, checklists that you can take on board when you elaborate your proposal. Now, on the institutional side, this is of course linked with the sustainable development context, but there it's important to analyze the capacity constraints and the needs of priorities of the institution, and in particular of the involved, is it research or educational, or the units, departments of the partner institution. What is the added value of the project for your organization? What is the contribution to shared ownership? So this is important. And for this section, you have 3,000 characters. Yeah, I didn't say it for the previous one, but for each section, there is a number of characters available that you will also find back in this the Word format, which is in the working document. Because if you are later on input the information in the tool, and you will come up here with 6,000 characters, you will not be able to input info, and you will have to reduce that. So take this into account. Then we come with, let's say, I would say that is the core module of your project proposal, which is the project strategy. It is really about the envisioning the desired long-term change, the dream to which the project wants to contribute, and to describe the change pathways to develop an impact-oriented strategy. It has 2 parts, an impact statement and a theory of change approach. I will come back to that. Now, we simplified the theory of change approach. It is not a fully fledged theory of change, of very complex or with a lot of visualizations. No, it is a theory of change which is to be aligned with let's say the standard approach theory of change of VLERES, aligned with the SDG principles, and we ask you to organize it along 3 main questions: the why, the what, and the how. And I will come back to that in the following slides. But so the first part, like I said, is really about the impact statement, the impact level. So you ask you to, in 500 characters, in a phrase, to explain what is a long-term change to which you want to contribute with your project. And then in the next section, you will be asked to elaborate on that by explaining the importance of this long-term change that you're working towards within Agenda 2030 and the SDGs. So why is the project important and for whom? And for this, you have 1,500 characters. The next question is then on the what. Yeah, that's more the outcome level, I would say. What do you want to achieve by the end of the project? So what can you achieve by the end of the project? So you have to be careful not to be too over-ambitious. What changes do you want to be achieved, observed by the end of the project? And also there is a helping mechanism that you can align with. The idea is that you align with the VLIRUS standard outcomes that I will show next. Now, in this argumentation, also important to already include some reflections on potential sustainability of the project result after the VLIRUS funding ends. This section is 4,000 characters. You will also need to mark by a drop down in the tool what are the relevant VLIRUS outcomes to which your project aligns. This is a visualization of our standard outcomes. We have 6 standard outcomes. Now, the first one is more about this first X that I talked about, individuals as agents of change. This is, of course, important, but I would say that for projects, we are more looking towards the outcomes that are related to higher education and science institutions as drivers of change, outcome number 2 to outcome number 5. And very often, the outcomes of a project will be linked to a combination of these outcomes. Not necessarily all. You have to indicate the main ones. For instance, my project is focusing on curriculum strengthening and development, but on a research-based manner. So it may be, okay, it can be outcome number 2, higher quality and inclusive education. But there should always be a connecting with the uptake, with the use. So actually, outcome number 5, enhanced conditions for uptake of new knowledge, applications of services. We expect it to be there always. We don't expect a project, for instance, only with outcome number 4, higher quality and needs-oriented research, because we say, okay, it's always research with applications for society. So 4 and 5 combined, but not 4 exclusively or 2 exclusively. It can be a broader combination, of course. Outcome number 6 is not excluded, but is more high level about strengthened knowledge-driven science and society interactions that we expect rather as being the priority in other types of projects, but it is also, of course, possible. So that was about the outcome level. That's what can you achieve by aligning yourselves on the VLIRUS outcomes. Now talking about the third main questions within the project strategy within the theory of change is how do you want to do it? So this goes more operational. It's more the output level but describe also your operational and methodological approaches, identifying key deliverables, core activities that will lead to the intermediate results, intermediate changes. Here you can elaborate on your research or pedagogical methods, but also always reflecting on how to integrate this uptake approach. This is a bigger section. You have maximum 6,000 characters for that. So that is where you can provide more information also. Now, this is also linked later to the activity operational plan. So here you don't have to list in the text all individual activities because that will come back in Annex 1, where you will be asked to detail an operational plan. It's rather about linking, let's say, to the standard domain. So for instance, in my project, I will be targeting strengthened research capacities of involved departments and be training a number of students, organizing dissemination practices. So there is always a combination of, let's say, activities along these standard domains of that intermediate change that VLIRUS also identifies. Also here, there is a separate section because we noticed that it sometimes gets forgotten in text. We separated this as a separate question on how you will integrate the SDG principles as presented by VLIRUS in your proposal. And also here you have 3,000 characters that can be used for that maximum. That was for module 2. It's already quite a lot. Now we still have to go towards the other modules. We go to module number 3. Module number 3 is about the organization, who is involved in the project and how is the project structured. One part is really about updating the personnel data. You can use also an X1 for that. The involved promoters, co-promoters, team members, and yeah, what will be their contribution to the project? How is their expertise related? It's always nice to see that there are multidisciplinary teams involved. I already said it in the beginning, linked to this is of course also the question that the CVs of the main promoters are required, but I already explained that earlier. So the other element also about the inclusion of the other actors here that are structurally involved, they can be included as team member or partner co-promoter, but not as main partner promoter. The key questions then, there is a question that you have to elaborate on how the project is structured, the organizational structure of it, what is the distribution of roles, how will the tasks be divided within the team, maximum 2,500 characters, and if applicable in your project, to describe the role and selection procedures of scholarship holders that are relevant within the project setup. Now within short initiatives, maybe this will be a lesser important section than maybe in a 5-year project or a long-term project. But anyways, if applicable, please also elaborate on that. It's maximum 2,000 characters. Then we come to module number 4, which is about stakeholders and also the coherence with other project activities. So those are the two big parts. On the stakeholder side, we ask you to identify the project's 5 most important stakeholders that will need to be listed. Those are stakeholders external to the project. And we ask you to elaborate on how you will manage them and engage them. That is in a text, not in a table or something, but in a text. How will these stakeholders contribute to the realization of the project outcomes and the impact? And there, a section that you have 3,000 characters for as well. Also, part of this section is to elaborate on the coherence, to elaborate on the complementarity of your proposal with other actions that exist, other networks, other projects. So on the one side, this can be, okay, the links with eventual other VLIRUS funded projects, other team projects, IUCs, Global Minds, ICP Connect, or with completely separated project actors, for instance, in the same context, there is an EU project, or there is the French cooperation active, or another scientific actor that is active, and we will be complementary, that kind of thing. This is not a lessons learned section. Lessons learned come back later. For this section, you have 2,500 characters. Since we are also Belgium fully funded, we are also particularly interested to read here about the link with other Belgian actors, non-governmental actors, but also with other scientific actors like the French, our French-speaking sister organization, ARES, or with the Tropical Institute of Antwerp. So if you have these links, please include it here. Then I go to module number 5, which is the planning and budgeting, also important, of course. The planning goes via the Annex 1 that I already said. You have to fill this in a correct manner, not add cells, because otherwise it will block when you upload it. You have the domain, and there you can, it's a drop-down where you can link it up with, for instance, the standard research domain, the standard intermediate change domains, such as educational domain, the research domain, outreach, and you will be able to indicate it. You describe your activity, rather core activity, who is responsible for it, and you indicate the timing, whether it's in semestral basis, in the first or in the second year. And then there is the budget, which also follows a specific format. My colleague Geraldine will explain more about the financial guidelines, but this format has to be, the format that is available has to be used, and also you cannot add columns or nothing, otherwise you will have a problem when uploading it in the tool. Now in the tool, in the text, there is a question also. It's not all just about filling out the budget, but you will be asked to explain, to elaborate the value for money, how much will be spent proportionally on core activities, particular attention for the personnel costs, investment costs, and to identify which parts of the budget will be managed by which partner. Flemish partner institution 1, partner institution 2, maximum 4,000 characters for this. Good news, module 6, which is on risk management, is not applicable for SI projects, so you don't have to elaborate a risk analysis, a thorough one. But of course, when you elaborate your context analysis and your project strategy, if there are important assumptions or risks, you try to, let's say, include them in your narrative, but no separate section here. Also, the monitoring section has been simplified. It's more about describing your approach in terms of monitoring and quality assurance. Generic. So how will you assess and monitor the results of your specific project? How would success look like? So you have 2,000 characters for that. It's not that much, but it has to be clear and concise. Important to know is that if your project gets selected in the end, that you will, you will need to report per year, and on a yearly basis, you will be asked to report on a number of standard indicators which are common, generic for all VLUS interventions. Now, it's perfectly possible that for some of these indicators are not relevant for your project, and then you can just, you don't have to fill it in. But you will be asked to list after year 1, where do I stand, for instance, with at the research level with joint publications, for educational level, were there any updated bachelor, master, or PhD programs in the project that were updated, or are the new course modules developed or standard elements? People, how many persons that are trained, master, PhD, but also if applicable, bachelor level. Only those that are at the level of the partner institutions, really. So we're not tracking Flemish PhD students, for instance, but yeah, at the level of the partner institutions and that are involved in the projects, really, that there is a direct support from the project. Outreach, of course, very much interested in hearing about the activities, the workshops with non-academic actors, also trying to scale yourself where you stand with the uptake of your project. So for each domain, there is at least one indicator, but it's perfectly possible that one of these indicators is not relevant for your project. Networks and partnerships will look at the established partnerships, systems and policies will look at institutional policies that came out of your project. For instance, if you worked out a new ICT policy in a local partner institution, that would be something relevant to include here. Then the last module, it's about learning and steering. This is the session on lessons learned and on follow-up. First, the key questions are actually, first of all, is this a completely new project ID, yes or no? There is a drop down there, then you will be asked to indicate whether it's a new project ID, whether it's a follow-up project, maybe you already had a short initiative in the past or another project in the past, and this is a follow-up, please indicate. And if it's a resubmission, that means that you tried in the SI 2023 call, submitted a proposal, but were not successful, for instance. There's a checkbox where you can include information. And you will be asked to explain on that, list your relevant previous experiences, projects between project partners, achievements from earlier projects. And in the case that you're going for a project with an institution where there is an ongoing institutional university cooperation project, an IUC, a long-term cooperation project. We have about 10 to 15, I think, currently worldwide, but over the years, more than 20, I think 25 to 30, I forgot now today, but you will be asked to highlight, okay, how does my project proposal relate to the ongoing or finalized IUC? That can be done in this section, but of course also in the context analysis. So for this section, you have maximum 2,500 characters. Okay, that is in the quickest possible way. We went through the formats, through the approach. So hopefully this will be helpful for you. We will, of course, still, I think I cannot see it, but possibly there were some questions in the chat. Otherwise, we can still have a number of questions in the group, but I will stop sharing my presentation because currently I cannot see anyone. Okay. I see that there is one hand raised, Anna Christie Suwardi, Indonesia, and a second one as well, but I see
Yeah, thank you.
Anna Christie. Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Anna from Indonesia. So my team and I, we had received feedback from the reviewer from the previous call. So we're planning to revise and also resubmit for the current call. We have noticed though from our last year proposal that the SI has priority on the institutional development, meanwhile also has attention for the community engagement and also participation. So basically my questions are like we have several questions. So could you please suggest first, like what sort of percentage between the institutional development and also community engagement that we should allocate in the initiative? And then second question is that to what extent an initiative that is expected to allocate a specific intervention to the community? And our last question, do you have any certain quota acceptance for each country? If so, then how many initiatives will be accepted from one country, for instance, Indonesia alone? Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. 3 questions. I will start with the last one. There is no quota per country. The number of projects that are selectable will be per commission, for instance, and that will depend on the number of submissions. So if there is a very high submission rate from the Asian countries, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, and Palestine, that the proportion towards the total number of 40 selectable proposals there will be a number for Asia. Let's say that based on that would become 10. But within those 10, there is no quota. There is no quota for a specific country. It will be purely quality based, the assessment based on the assessment of the selection commission. So it could be in a regional commission that we end up in a commission where by chance there are no proposals selected in given countries. There are no quota for that. Then the other one on the type of approaches, I explained that it's quite multiple and you can go for different kinds of approaches, but you have to be realistic. It is a short initiative project, 2 years. You have to reach results within 2 years. It's not the idea that you have broad ambitions on all the outcomes that I mentioned. I don't think that an SI project can go very deep into institutional development, for instance. Very often it will be a combination of let's say educational practices to be improved with uptake, or research practices to be improved with uptake towards society. It will very often work with specific units in university or science institutions. But there could be an SI project, very specific, that, for instance, works on higher education management in an institution, but that has that then as a sole ambition. So that's also possible to promote, but also there are no priorities. You have to try to align with our outcomes. Now, in all the project proposals, then that links to your second question, it is important to reflect on activities on towards the community, towards the involved community. There always should be that connection. That is linked to this outcome of uptake and linked to the intermediate change domain of outreach activities. So that one is crucial, that it's not forgotten. A purely scientific project with no connection with society, yeah, that will not stand a big chance, I would say.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. We can still, I think next was Axel Keza, is that correct?
Yes. Thank you. My name is Axel Keza. I'm Burundian, but currently I'm based in Benin when I'm doing my master in biostatistics. at University of Abomey Calavi. So I have 3 questions. The first is that I would ask that if master students from African countries are we eligible? This is the first question. The second question is that if yes, I would ask again that for someone who have the proposal or a proposal citation can submit the proposal as a project in this core of applications. This is the second question. And the third question is about that even is it possible that if someone can be a member of more than one team when it's in the process of submitting a project? I can be in the more than one team, or it's just exclusively for one team. You cannot be in more than one team. Thank you for according me the. Thank
Okay,
you.
I will try to answer. Like I said, multiple promotership has some limitations, but team membership has not. So you could be a team member in different applications. That is not a problem. Now it's always interesting to focus a little bit and let's say to focus on a number of applications rather than trying to go for many. Now, in terms of promoters, they need to be employed by the partner institution in the one of the partner countries. So a master student will not be employed. He will not be able to submit an application. A master student can be involved in a project. For instance, your promoter locally applies, and one of the elements in the project is targeting strengthening of master degree or master courses, and there is a student in master students are involved. So there's certainly involvement possible, but to be able to submit, that will be usually a professor or a specialist in a local institution, but it has to be an employment, a person that is employed. I think that is what I can answer.
Okay, thank you. It's clear. Thank you.
We still have a few moments. I think Alina Delgado was next.
Good morning. I can be listened, Peter?
Hello.
Okay, Peter. I have a very specific question. I don't know if this is the part specific also of the presentation. I don't know, but it's related to the management of the budget project. Because sometimes in big universities in the South, this is related, could be related with the bureaucratical difficult processes. I mean, for the project, so how this is managed. So it's defined by lead, by the proposal. So you will open like a bank account to the name of the university, of the dean, of the project director. Because, for example, if we plan an activity that is related with some equipment that we need to do that activity, and we cannot get that equipment in the time being that is specified, so that will delay the project. So how that project budget will be managed, so how it is. So that's it. And it's a very critical issue. So for the follow-up of the project, so that's a little bit worry about it. And I say to you, it's related with the bureaucratical process in big universities in the South. I suppose you have some experience about it, maybe.
Yes, now we will have an elaboration on the financial guidelines in the next presentation later. So there will already be some clarifications on what is in the budget, but it's important that indeed that your institution knows about the project, so that well in advance that it starts, let's say, discussions are ongoing about how to organize yourself budget-wise. And there's also always a distribution of the budget, that the part that is managed in Belgium and locally. So yes, and it's really important that those things are also discussed locally well up front. Once you get selected, you still have some time before the project starts. So that everything goes as smooth as possible as of the 1st of September of the start of the project year, because the projects are 2 years fixed and there is no extension. So it's very important to discuss all of that in case you get selected in that pre-contracting stage. But financial details, later there is a presentation that will follow.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking at the time. Do I still have time? According to the schedule, a few minutes, but we will have to. Maarten van Laaren, I will still.
Yes, thank you, Peter. Our question was mainly, is our pilot project or feasibility studies eligible for the VLIRUOS grant? And if we would do a pilot study with the short initiatives grant this year, what would be the VLIRUOS's vision on funding the full-scale study afterwards?
Well, a short initiative project is a standalone project. It can be explorative, it can have elements of pilots, but there is of course no guarantee of the continuation. So you should be clear that what you develop in a proposal will need to reach a number of, achieve a number of things by the end of the project, your outcomes, also propose a number of results that stand alone. And then of course you can submit, if it goes well, you can submit a follow-up project or a bigger project like a team afterwards. But you have to be clear, in this proposal, it's about what you can achieve within 2 years. And if that depends on the success of having a next project, you will not be successful, because then they will say, okay, but this project is only useful if there is a follow-up. So be careful with that. But you can definitely put some elements that are pilot. We also understand that in 2-year projects, there is more exploration, more piloting, more testing maybe than in a longer term proposal. Okay, I would suggest that we go for a last question.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, Crispin Munyelele.
No, Worku Meret.
No,
Is that okay?
Thank
I
you.
didn't see your question.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm from Burundi, at the University of Burundi. So we are currently developing a proposal of research that is going to involve Burundi and some South African institutions. So we would like to know whether for us to be able to apply to submit our proposal of research, we'll need to have collaboration with one of the Fleming institutions.
Yes.
And if that's so how can we start building that collaboration? I mean, to have people from there to be part of what we are doing now, to see whether we'll be able to meet the deadline. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes. Well, it's always important that you already have some relations with professors or specialists at the Flemish universities or universities of applied sciences. So it depends on some mapping on your side. In the call, there are also some contact persons of University Development Cooperation at level of the institutions. Now, I think you will have to do some mapping and look for, based on a first initial project ID, to look for partners at the Flemish side that are willing to engage in a partnership project with you, because these are partnership projects. So there has to be also, let's say, a common project interest, research interests at the level of a Flemish partner.
Okay.
So try to go for some mapping. If your idea is very specific, yes, the contact persons in the Flemish institutions can try to help. We can try to help, but you have to do some efforts and some clarification yourself first.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, I would actually like to round up for now. Or is there a last one? Because we have to go to the next presentation, actually. So I think we can maybe keep some questions for later also, but I would like to give the floor now to my colleague Laura, since our presentation is also very much linked to the first one.
Voilà. Can you see my screen?
Yes, but
Peter?
not yet in presentation mode.
No, okay,
Yes, now I think it will be fine.
perfect. Let me see how I can still see you. Voila. So this is the second part of the information session. I will cover parts on the documents that are available on our website and in the call. I will also cover some of the SDG principles. Peter already mentioned it in the information, like in the introduction, but I will go a little bit more into depth. And then afterwards, I'll also discuss briefly like project ideas that come from mainly non-academic actors and how you can access this and make use of this when considering applying and formulating your project proposal. So, which resources and documents are available that are useful when going through the call and writing your proposal? So first of all, of course, there is the call itself. The call information can be reviewed either on our website or in a downloadable PDF. So on the website, some who are familiar with our organization have noticed that the website has changed, but the information is there on the new website. And can be reviewed. So in the website, it's divided in different sections. So you can go on specific elements that you're interested in, whether it's the deadlines or financial aspect, and you can pick out the information that you need at that moment. But on the other hand, there is also the, as I call, documents. So you can download it and have the documents with all the information available at one place. Then there's also the financial framework that is available. That document indicates the expenses that are allowed during the or in the project, how the budgets are to be determined, and how these expenses have to be accounted for. So of course, this is very important information when writing your proposal. So this information is also available. My colleague Geraldine will elaborate on the details later during this information session. Another document is the methodological background document, which is valuable to have at hand when writing your proposal, because all projects need to be identified and formulated following the general principles of the theory of change. So this document provides practical information on the different modules that Peter discussed in details, and the principles that need to be developed to result in a qualitative proposal. Then we also have the gender policy. As we at Fleer EOS, we foster and encourage gender equality. This is something to emphasize. So we as an organization engage, and we expect our partners to do the same in fixing the number, fixing the knowledge, and fixing the organization, or in your case, fixing the team for gender equality. So this means that we not only focus on the number of female team members, although that's also very important, or female stakeholders that are involved, but other than that, it also refers to the importance and the value of projects that have a gender sensitive or an equity focus. So details on this aspect can be found on the gender policy document. Another document that is valuable is the brochure named Creating the Conditions for Uptake. This is a brochure that has been developed as a guide for project promoters and team members to create conditions that facilitate the effective use of research and education results by non-academic actors, by policymakers, by NGOs, private sector, and so for project resources to be used by the end beneficiaries. And we believe that it's important to not only consider that at the very end, at the final stage of your project, but to integrate this throughout the entire project process. And so this brochure is created to guide you on this and to like inform you on how you can do that and how to already think about this aspect from the beginning of your project. And then finally, also important is the fact that for every partner country, there is a country reference framework. So this is developed separately for every country and provides insights on the sustainable development context of each country. I will come back to this later on. So some of you might have noticed that now we have 18 partner countries. One country has been added, which is Palestine. Before it was solely a scholarship country, now it's a partner country, so also eligible for project proposals. For this country, there is no reference framework available yet. And since it's newly included as a partnership country, we will also have a separate session on this. But more information will be shared later on the website, like the exact dates. That has not been set yet, but once it is, we will communicate this on the website. But so, yeah, be aware that from now on, we also welcome projects coming from Palestinian higher education institution. Well, so that was in terms of the documents that are available. I will also like to take some time to go over the SDG principles that are used as a compass for Vlerios projects. So including these principles is not mandatory, let's say, for projects to be eligible. However, projects that are meaningfully incorporating these principles do have a competitive advantage. And so those are, I'm talking about 3 principles. The first one is leave no one behind and inclusiveness. The second one is interconnectedness. And the third one is coherence, multi-institution, multi-stakeholder partnership. So let's start with the leave no one behind principle. This does include gender equality, but goes beyond. And by referring to this principle, we emphasize the need for proactive strategies to ensure that vulnerable or marginalized populations, groups, or regions are included and that they do benefit from higher education partnerships. The leave no one principle can be taken into account by looking at partners who you work with, by looking at the beneficiaries of the project, and by looking at the focus of the project. And concretely, this can be done by putting forward partnership with mid-range or small-scaled institution, or for example, by awarding scholarships by diversified group of beneficiaries, or by promoting a community-based types of research. These are just examples, of course. Second principle is the interconnectedness. So SDG interlinkages refer to the complex network and interconnections existing across SDGs. And these interlinkages show how actions directed to one of the SDG can influence another SDG. So uncovering and understanding this interaction helps achieving the overall 2030 agenda. The idea of this principle is that given the complexity, the scale, and the scale of social challenges, and I think climate change or the recent health crises that we had are good examples. This shows that different aspects, both social, economic, and ecological aspects need to be considered and approached, and that a holistic and integrated viewpoint is key. And this can be done by bringing together different types of expertise beyond sectoral and beyond disciplinary borders, and by exploring these interlinkages. So that's the whole idea behind this principle. And then the third idea, or the third principle, is coherence, multi-institution, and multi-stakeholder partnership, which is one principle as a whole, let's say. So the Agenda 2030 urges actions to be coherent with the actions and networks of other actors and initiatives. And the analysis of actions by academic and non-academic actors is essential for each partnership to ensure coherence. And so the country reference framework that we have available for you is therefore valuable as it offers a country-specific context analysis which aligns with Agenda 2030. So the framework provides an overview of the Belgian actors that are available or that are active in a certain country, the projects that are running, and other partners that have initiatives on specific themes. And this serves as a foundation for further context analysis. So coherence is key, but how to achieve this? We believe there are two ways: by multi-institutional and multi-stakeholder partnership. What is the difference? Multi-stakeholder, multi-institutional partnership is a structural collaborations between different higher education institutions at Flemish or Belgian level, including the Institute of Tropical Medicine, with the aim of obtaining better results by pooling available expertise and experience. Multi-stakeholder partnership, on the other hand, refers to a structural collaboration with at least non-academic actor, so it can be civil society, NGO, private sector, another non-governmental actor, in which this actor plays an active role in the project implementation. So those are the two ways to achieve further coherence. And in case you want to have a multi-institutional or multi-stakeholder partnership in your project, so we highly encourage you to do so. And once you do, you have a competitive advantage, but it's important to clarify in the proposal who has which kind of responsibility within the project. And then one other element, I already mentioned that we have this brochure available on creating the conditions for uptake. Why do we do so? Well, the whole idea of VLIR-UO's project is that we go beyond the purely research educational project. Our aim is to have a societal impact. And to do so, it's important to create these conditions that can generate this impact. And so effective partnerships are conducted to ensure that relevant stakeholders are engaged and that opportunities for uptake are created from the beginnings. So this leads to a broader application of new knowledge by end users. And this can include policymakers, NGOs, local community leaders. And so again, we emphasize on this brochure because we believe that the sooner you integrate these conditions and the more it's integrated throughout the entire process, the higher the chances that uptake can actually be realized. And then there was one final element I wanted to discuss with you guys. That's the fact that we have a page on our website where we gather ideas for projects. And these ideas are given by non-academic actors. So Belgian and sometimes non-Belgian actors, non-academic actors who, because of where they work and what they do, feel there is need for specific research or educational projects. And so we reached out to this organization to share with them if they feel there is certain needs. And so you can find it on the website, but it will also be updated either tomorrow or early next week. And so then you can find the title of the project ID, a small summary of how this organization feel the research and educational project should look like. They will also indicate the countries that the project could focus on, countries, or sometimes a whole region. It will also be indicated to which SDG or SDGs, plural, this project can be aligned to. And contact information will also be shared so that if you go through this list and you find ideas that are interesting for you, given your background and your discipline, that you can reach out to them directly to see if there is possibility for collaboration, for synergy and complementarity. So we do welcome you to have a look on that website and to see if there is an interesting match there. Voilà. So this was the part I wanted to share with you. I don't know if it's best to have a Q&A now or to do that after Geraldine's presentation.
I think it's better to have, if there are questions, have a few questions now.
Okay.
And so was it foreseen and then we go to the financial part and have specific questions. So I don't know who was first. Maybe Edelvis Lopez Davila.
Yes, thank you, Peter. Well, I have just two questions that already raised in the chat. One is when they were talking about entrepreneurial partnership. Well, we are here from Ghent University, but we have another partner from Belgium, is ILBO. So it's also ILBO count as a multidisciplinary in partnership from Belgium. And from the case that the country that we want to work is in Cuba, and then from there we have the university as a main contact, and behind the university, then we have other 4 companies to produce. We are planning to work with wastewater, and one department from the provincial government, because normally it's a department behind of environmental, sanitary, and this and that. So it's just a question, it's like this kind of connection could be considered or no as a multidisciplinary partnership.
Well, I think the actors that you're mentioning, like the stakeholders or the water companies, for us, that fits within this multi-stakeholder partnerships, if they have a structural role.
Yeah.
And
we have
but
already from them, we have already from them a kind of a letter of agreement to interact and also be also part of the activity. Yes.
Yes, one of the optional annexes is like a synergy letter or a formalized synergy with another actor. So that could be an option. Now at the Flemish side, the promoter, you always have to pass via a university or University of Applied Sciences, and ILVO is not part of that mechanism, but they can be involved. People from ILVO can be involved in the team as team members and collaborate along the same lines, but they cannot be the promoters.
No. We will be the promoter. So the Ghent University will be the promoter. And then ILVO is also just partner as expert in the field.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, then we still have a question of Crispin Munyelele. Or is it the hand from before? I don't know.
It was before.
Okay.
I don't have any further question.
Okay. Then I don't see any. I see Worko Meret.
Yes. Okay, if you allow me, my question is from the previous presentation. So shall I continue my question from the previous presentation?
I want to focus. Okay, you can pose your quickly then.
Okay, it's very short. How can we communicate or get or select a promoter from Belgian universities? And how we can identify them and when to submit them the draft. I think it is by the promoter from the partner university or institution. The proposal should be started to be developed. If that is correct, tell us how we can communicate the professors or the promoters from the Belgian universities.
Yes, that's a bit what I explained when responding another question in the beginning, that there needs to be some initiative on your part to clarify your project ID, to try and do a mapping of the kind of expertise that you're looking for on the Flemish side. Maybe in your institution, I don't know which is your institution, there are already some prioritized contacts and you could try to go via them. If your ID is very clear and you have already some potentialities, we can try to put you in contact with some of the contact persons at level of the institutions. There are also some online, definitely some databases on, for instance, on the FRIS database on Flemish research. So you have to do some own investigation, I would say. and then look at the contact persons that are included in the call. But there needs to be something already, a project ID. So it's important to work on that and take your time for that. Sometimes it takes more than one call, or maybe the call deadlines are too soon in your case. It depends. You really need already a quite clear project ID to work on. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I don't see any other questions here, so I guess we can start organizing ourselves for the next presentation, which is according to the timeline upcoming. So we will reorganize the PowerPoints, and my colleague Geraldine will take the floor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Geraldine. Within FLIR-US, I'm responsible for the countries Kenya and Tanzania. I will guide you through the budget and the financial framework for this SI call. I hope you can see my presentation and you can hear me well. Yeah, okay. Here we go. Yeah. So I will give you a short introduction about the general principles. We will go through the financial framework, the budget lines, and then the scholarships. So the general principles, why you will have to submit a budget. Why is it important? Because it is part of the selection process. We will assess the value for money. So make a realistic budget, and it needs to be reflect what you are describing in your project proposal. For example, if you describe certain activities, we kind of expect also that there's a budget, or you explain why you don't need a budget for that specific activity. The budget will also a part of the formal contract between FLIR-US and the partner and the Flemish higher education institution. Also, we will transfer the installments according to the approved budget, and it is also our reference document that we will use during the yearly control and reporting process. Yeah, it has been mentioned before, so it needs to be in one of the 18 FLIR-US partner countries. Academic staff, because there was quite some questions in the chat, will be supplied by either the partner or the Flemish institutions. I will go through it later on also with regard to personal costs, but we also consider for academic staff in-kind funding from the Flemish and partner institution, such also as tuition fees that are waived, use of office space, and so on. If we go through the financial framework, so it is based on the Royal Decree and its updates. You will find always the latest version on the website and the PowerPoint, but also in the call document, you will see a link to the financial framework. So in general, the funds should be used in accordance with the principles of sound financial management. So the first one is the principle of thrift or economy. So it means that resources are used and made available in appropriate quantity and quality and at the best price. The principle of efficiency refers to the best relationship between the resources used and the development results to be achieved. And then you have the principle of effectiveness that aims to achieve established outcomes and to achieve the expected development results. The principle of integrity implies that the subsidized organizations take the necessary measures at the level of policies and practice to be reasonably certain that irregularities, fraud, or passive corruption do not occur. and to put an end to them if they would be occur. Eligible costs, so you will have to justify the cost by a piece of evidence. Of course, a piece of evidence needs to be identifiable, verifiable, in accordance with the approved budget. Yeah, so we should find it back during the period of the project. So not before or after the project ends, no double financing. So an invoice cannot be covered by Vlir OS and by another organization. This is double financing in accordance with the agreement. So the contract has been signed and it does not appear on the list of non-eligible costs. So in the financial framework, you will see a whole list of costs which are non-eligible. The framework, the guidelines. So an SI has a maximum budget of 70,000 euro. So the project budget is divided per activity year, and an activity year runs from the 1st of September. So the SI of this call will start the 1st of September 2025. So this will be the first activity year until August 31st, 2026. So you will have 2 activity years, and this is how you plan your budget. Its expenditure will also be reported in the corresponding activity year. The budget is quite flexible, so there is a rollover which is possible. Of course, if you spend more, it also means you need to pre-finance, because we will have the installments according to the budget you have submitted to us. If you underspend, yeah, then you can catch up in the second year. Project cannot be extended, so the maximum duration is 2 years. So then it needs to be finished. I have mentioned most of this. Yeah, so I will skip this slide. The budget lines, you will see this when you go to the format of the budget. So you have these big lines. This is investment cost, operational cost, personal cost, scholarship cost, and then you have the coordination cost. The coordination cost at the Flemish level and the coordination cost at the partner level. So now I will go through it one by one. So you will see it looks like this. This is your general overview, and per line you will see how much you have budgeted. So if we start with the first big category, which is the investment cost. Investment costs are goods, durable goods, with a long service life, so more than 1 year. So we consider 1,000 euro as a minimum threshold. So if you buy consumables, consumables is to be consumed, it's not durable. So we don't consider this as an investment. An investment is something that you keep in an inventory. Of course, a good practice is minimal spending, and also major infrastructure works we strongly discourage to budget. You have general investment, and then you also have vehicles, and a third category is ICT. For general investment is all the investments which are not belonging into vehicles and ICT. So this can be a lab infrastructure or a kind of specific machine or yeah, material that you need. Vehicle is quite obvious, can be a car, motorcycle, and so on. And then you have ICT. Keep in mind still the threshold of 1,000 euro, unless there are other institutional specific thresholds for investment. If it's not an investment, you should put it under operational costs. We go immediately towards that. So example of ICT investment can be a server, video conferencing, laptop, and so on. So this was one big category, investment costs. A second big category are the operational costs. Operational cost is really linked with the project. So it's really activity-based. So these are not running, costs which are always keep on going. So once the project stops, also these costs should stop. If we talk about staff, persons contracted by the Flemish institution or partner institutions, this is not an operational cost. This is personal cost, but under operational cost, you can have service contract. And service contracts is for a specific type of expertise, which is not available at the specific institutions. Or for example, somebody who is collecting data. So for a specific activity, service contract can be offered, and this has to be budgeted under operational costs. As a good practice, operational costs in Belgium should be kept to a minimum, and they are only allowed if they are really instrumental and necessary in reaching the project objectives, and if they were foreseen in the budget proposal. So this is also very important. So we have first category is the general goods services. So actually it's about all the operational costs which are not in the other categories of dissemination, uptake, ICT, international mobility, and local mobility. Here, for example, you can have consumer goods, consumables, chemicals, books, spare parts, and so on. Dissemination and uptake. Dissemination and uptake is actually when you have done research or you have some findings and you will disclose them to a broader audience within the non-academic world. So it can be for farmers, it can be for government employees. So it's really outside of the academic world. This is what we call dissemination and uptake. So all the costs related to this, for example, if you will have a radio spot or a policy brief, these costs are considered within dissemination and uptake. Third one is ICT operation and services. This is within operational costs. So the threshold is below €1,000. It can be a simple smartphone, a license fee, software, and so on. International mobility subsistence. So an international travel is door-to-door international journey. So it's from one country to another country. This is what we call international travel. Can be from Flemish partners, institution members, or experts that are attracted within the project. And this involves train tickets, hotel costs, and the cost of an international passport, and so on. Local mobility and subsistence is then really the traveling within the country. So if the project is based in Tanzania, for example, and you travel from Dar es Salaam to Mwanza, this is local mobility. So then you will have the local transportation cost, a local per diem, and so on. Yeah. So as said, every cost needs to be confirmed by a piece of evidence. So, and this is according to the bookkeeping regulation. So it needs to mention the description of the goods or services, the date, the supplier, a reference number, the address institution, and so on. But we have also some certain costs that needs additional proof. For example, a hotel cost, per diem, because we also have a list with maximum per diem, and this is different for international and local mobility, catering, and so on. Service contracts, I already mentioned this a little bit. So what is a service contract? So a service contract is for external experts. So they are not under employment contract of the Flemish or the partner institution. It's really activity project related, limited in time. This can be technical support, for example, lab work, data collection, and the consultants are really a specific expertise. So you search specific consultants if there are no experts available at the institution, or for the Flemish side, it's too expensive to travel, for example. Be aware that subcontracting is non-eligible. So if you have if this is your core business, but you attract or you will provide a contract to somebody else while you are having the main expertise in it, this is what you are actually doing. We consider this as subcontracting, and this is not non-eligible. Social legislation should always be respected. Social security rules from the country of residence of the person who is receiving the service contract. Then it might also happen that smaller services are delivered. For example, farmers who are participating in a survey, you gather them all together, so they come for a day. That's one day they cannot work on their field, so you can give a small allowance. We don't consider this as a service contract, but this is just a service allowance. But the amount should be less than 375 euro per person per activity year. Personal costs. So we have two categories within personal costs. So we have the employment contracts and the topping ups. Personal costs, this is only possible for staff at the partner country who is having an employment contract. So if it's for a person who is not having an employment contract, it will be a service contract, so operational cost. This budget line is not available for personal costs at Flemish institution. If you are mentioning staff here, also mention the amount of time spent, for example, 10% of a full-time equivalent. And this is mainly actually for technical and administrative support. So staff responsible for coordinating this SI, so who are really responsible for the implementation, we consider this as in-kind funding. So this should be made available by both the Flemish and the partner institutions. A second category is topping up. So it's really activity-based supplement to the salary of a staff member. So again, it needs to be already a staff member of the partner institution. It needs to be part of the initial proposal. So if it was not in the initial proposal and the initial budget, which is part of the contract, you cannot count it to Vlur US. A topping up is limited to an indicative maximum of 40% of the gross local salary. And they need to be listed in the project proposal. We advise you as a good practice that it should be kept to a minimum, as we also see it as a matching fund from the partner institution. In general, also the personal cost and service contract should be kept to a minimum. We consider 25% of the budget as an indicative amount. Then we are going to scholarships, scholarship costs. It should be really embedded in the project. So it's about capacity building, whether at the level of the partner institution, whether at the level of the individual scholar herself. This can be in Belgium, the scholarship cost, or in the country of the partner institutions, but the schooler needs to be affiliated to the partner institutions. And also we have the list of nationalities. If the schooler has a different nationality of the country of the partner institution, scholarship might still be possible if there is sufficient assurance of a commitment within the institution. We have a specific framework for scholarships in Belgium where you can see specific details about the amounts which we foresee, because we have different types of scholarships. We have a short-term scholarship, a study, and a research scholarship. So let me go through it. So a study research scholarship. What is this? So a study scholarship is that you are really enrolled in an academic education or training program, and that lasts at least 6 months and not more than 2 academic years. So a maximum of 24 months, and it leads to a degree, bachelor, master, graduate, or postgraduate diploma. A research scholarship then is awarded as part of a pre-doc, PhD, or a postdoc academic research program. So you have an allowance, a monthly allowance. This is a lump sum, except for the flight tickets, but this includes your stay in Belgium. So it includes your accommodation, your meals, board and lodging, your insurance, and direct travel costs, and so on. So it covers actually your living here, your stay here, but it does not include your airline tickets nor a research and supervision fee. So if you would budget a PhD, we expect that he can also work on his study and he's deloaded from its normal duties, whether it's academic or administrative, and there's sufficient time to be spent to the scholarship. The Flemish institution is also committed that they are organized in such a way that the scholar has maximum profit to the project. And the selection criteria should be established jointly between the Flemish institution and the partner institution for this study or research abroad. Then we also have a short-time scholarship. So a short-time scholarship is not leading to a specific special diploma. So it's not about a bachelor or a master. It's really about a short-term training. So no degrees awarded. The minimum is 7 consecutive days on a row, maximum of 6 months. So here you have the calculation of the allowance, but this is also in the Excel file, you will see it. They are prefixed in the budget Excel file, so don't overwrite the cells. You will see if you put so many days, automatically the amount will already appear. Okay, yeah, so I said consecutive 7 days. This is regardless if it's a physical, online, or a hybrid training. Of course, scholarships do not have to be organized in Belgium. It can be also a local, an online, or a hybrid scholarship. With regard to the amounts we foresee, so it can never be more than the amounts we foresee for a training held in Belgium. And of course, they also need to be in line with partner institution and the national guidelines. Okay, so we had investment costs, we had operational costs, we have the employment, personal costs, and the scholarship costs. The last category are the coordination costs. So this is a lump sum, and it covers administration costs, coordination costs. To give you some examples, it can be an accountant who is helping, assistance of the financial department. It can be bank costs that are charged, for example, for cash withdrawals or opening an account. So these are kind of coordination costs. The coordination cost is fixed. Yeah. So there's a maximum of 10% of the budget. So suppose you really budget on the 70,000 euro, the maximum is 7,000, and it's divided over the Flemish institution and the partner institution. I'm too fast. So it's fixed 5% for the Flemish institution. So the remaining 5 is needs to be divided amongst the different partner institutions. So if you have 3 other partner institutions involved, you split the 5% amongst the 3 partner institutions. Okay, so this was a bit in a nutshell, the budget and the financial framework. Of course, you should go through the financial framework, which explains everything in details. Also, we have the scholarship frameworks, which give you everything in detail. It would lead us too far if I would really go into the detailed amounts which are possible. So this was my presentation, but of course we can have a Q&A, and I will stop sharing. Yeah, okay. Questions. I don't know who was first there, but I see Mr. Davila, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Geraldine. I have a one sharp question. Once I was writing some of the proposal and discussing here with a project colleague. Is mandatory to have a coordination cost topping?
A coordination cost is there.
But it's mandatory to register a cost on that because, for example, we who work here at the Ghent University, we already receive a salary. We considering our department as coordinating some project is part of our duty. We don't go like to add cost added to this. And this is like okay, we have a Flemish like a E1, and can we just put 0? So we don't want to be cost for the proposal.
No, that's not possible. So, but that really how you use afterwards the E2 is to be decided among project promoters and with the institutions. So you will see that it will be handy to have an amount there, but it's not that you have to pay it to local personnel in Cuba. We know that this is not possible. But very often there are certain costs that were maybe not attributable in the budget, and then you have this as a kind of a reserve. How it's normally it's used for local purposes, the E2. But I know that there are some difficulties for Cuba to transfer the money to the local account. So
indeed. I mean, let's say both main coordinator, the Flemish here, is my case, and the colleague, the contact in Cuba, both are professor from the university who already received a salary, and then
the coordination cost is not to pay salaries. It's like the cost that Geraldine described. It's
Okay, thank you. So the E1 and E2 we put, let's say, the minimum.
It's standard. It goes into you.
Yeah, it's standard. Yeah, it's 5-5. Unless you are with multiple partner institutions, then this 5% is divided again. But it also can be, for example, if we refuse a certain cost because it's not eligible, then you have this cost that you can cover.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to Mr. Guevara.
Thank you very much, Peter, Geraldine, and Laura. I have a question, and probably it's related to the coordination costs. Normally, in our higher education institutions, we have the financial department. But as one of our colleagues from another university in Ecuador said, it's difficult to manage money coming from different countries. I mean, coming from projects from external funding. So in some of our universities, we have what we call a public company. So the public company is linked to the university. It is possible to sign if the grant is, if I get a grant, it's possible to sign a sort of contract to receive the money to the public company of the university or not, or the university has to pass the money to the public company within the process, within an internal process. So that's my question, because otherwise could be very, very difficult to run the project if the money goes directly to the financial department of the university. That's the question.
Well, how it works, so VLIR-US is always sending the money to the Flemish partner institution. And then it's the Flemish partner institution who transfers it in installments to the partner institution. The contracting partners with VLIR-US are really the partner institution, not a public agency related to it, but the partner university, as well as the Flemish university as such. So this is how it works.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to Madame Delgado.
Hello, good morning, Geraldine. Well, my question is related with my first question to another with Peter, and also with this question. So it's related, how is the management of the project? No, of course, once the project is accepted, no, because it's a critical issue. So for example, I'm from the University of Guayaquil. It's a big university. For example, when you make a transfer, how we say the previous person that talked, to the financial department of the central university, bureaucratical procedures make it sometimes a little bit not so fast. So that could imply delays on the activities that we have to perform. So it's possible that in the contract could be, for example, stated that could be from the faculty, or for example, from the Faculty of Architecture and Urbanism. So from the faculty of the university, or has to be with the central university. So it's due to those bureaucratical procedures that sometimes take some time and make not so easy or smooth the allocation of resources to our faculty. So that's, I don't know if it is something standard that has to be from your side in the VLIR. I don't know, that's my question. I'm a little bit worried about that part.
This is a very specific question, and I know there are people from the financial department following also this session. But how we are doing it, you can have a project account dedicated for the specific project. So who's the who is having access of the project account? This is but no, I will ask somebody else, because this is too specific for me. I don't know, Peter or Steven.
Yes. You want to answer, Steven, or can I go ahead?
Yes, so it's perfectly possible that you open a bank account on your faculty, for your faculty, and that you get your transfer, all the money transferred to that specific bank account. It doesn't need to be a central bank account from the university. In fact, it's even better that you have a dedicated account for your funds that will allow you to do the follow-up much better. So I noticed that I did not put my camera on.
No, I would like to add a nuance there, that it has to be approved by your university. We don't go by local legislation. So in fact, all contracts are signed by the rector of the Flemish institution and the rector of the local institution. So if there is a decision to open a specific account locally, which is official, like my colleague says, it has to be, of course, in agreement with your local institution. Now, we don't include the project account in your institution in the contract as such. We, like it was explained by Geraldine, we transfer to the Flemish institution. So afterwards, there is still some time to see how the procedures will be run, how much budget will be paid from Belgium accounts, and what can be paid locally. And if you have a direct account, like my colleague said, which is a faculty account, that is an institutional account, that is perfect. But you cannot do it without the authorization of your authorities, of course. So, and that is up to you. You have to discuss this with your authorities, how it works and what are the official accounts and the official procedures that can be followed.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to Madame Bandon.
Hi, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I have two questions for the budget of I would think for conference attendance related to for example, presenting the data from the research related to the project for the VLIR, for the short initiatives. Is it possible to actually put in a dedicated funding for our budget for the conference attendance of PhD students who are included in the projects?
Do you mean a people who is following? So it's like a participant, a listener that he will
No.
Somebody who's
presenting like poster or oral presentation, of course.
It is possible, but it's also normally it's somebody who is already, if it's within the SI project, this resource has been found. Normally it's done by somebody from the staff involved, and it's part of the regular job duties. So it depends if it really would be an external expert giving some explanation is different than staff giving this dissemination of results.
Yeah, because so just to give a context, I will be a PhD. I am a PhD student right now, and I will be writing part of the a group writing this proposal to be submitted next year. And I was wondering because there will be 2 conferences in 2026 that I want to submit like an abstract for, and since it is within the framework of the timeline of the short initiatives, I was wondering if I could actually put in some budget for that.
But it depends, is it who is the organizer of this conference? Because if it's, for example, an external organizer and not the institution you are involved with, you can put in a fee, to participate. You could put in travel costs. This is possible. But it depends all on the setup of who is the organizer, what is your role.
Yeah, well, for sure, because it's like an international, these are international conferences, and I would usually I would present a poster, an oral presentation, depending on when or where my abstract will be accepted in. So
yeah, well, the idea is that you have an active collaboration in a conference. That is important. So that is, you have a poster like that. So that is important, and that kind of cost can be put in there. And even if you're a PhD, would you be a PhD in the project itself or partly funds or not? Because otherwise there are certain costs that fall under the scholarship cost. If you're not a scholarship, that would be as a team member in the project.
Yeah.
Conference cost. That conferences that are linked to the goals of the project, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Important.
So I'm already a PhD student at the VUB, and I will be like a member of the team that will be submitting a proposal for the short initiative. So
of the local team.
Yeah.
You will find in the financial guidelines also the details of what kind of costs you can bring in.
Okay, and then so that was my first question. My second question would be, so I've already been to our partner institution in Kenya for 1 week. I applied for the Global Minds proposal and funding proposal earlier this year, and I got the grant, and I was able to travel to Nairobi in August to meet with the collaborators and do some survey of what, for example, I will be planning to go to have a full field work next year. So I did some ocular where I should do my field work, and then of course I had to pay from my own personal fund first before I got the reimbursement from the Global Minds funding. My question is specifically for because I had to use TransferWise. I'm not sure, or Wise. If I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's the same platform as MoneyGram. So I transfer money so I can pay for example, for services that was rendered by some local Kenyan local Kenyan collaborators. For example, if they paid for certain transportation, because like it has to be in cash most of the time, because they couldn't really accept like the cards. So I had to so some of them, like some of my Kenyan collaborators, had to pay for in cash in Kenyan shillings, and I would use this platform called Wise to transfer from euros to Kenyan. Would it be okay? Like, because in these wiring applications, they have, of course, like they have overhead costs for fees and other things similar to that. So is it also possible, because I heard from the previous question that you can also set up like a local, or like a local corporate account maybe from the university, but also I mean, if you are going to wire money, this is
Actually,
also
there are only two. If we have an invoice, it needs to be of the partner institution. The one who can spend money is the partner institution. The one who receives money is the partner institution, the Flemish institution as well, because they transfer the money. So it's them who will send the money. So whether it's a Flemish institution, the financial department of the Flemish institution, or it's the financial department, or if you set it up differently by really the department of the university, who is able to spend the money. So whether you have it already in Kenyan shilling, because it is at the partner institution, whether it's still in Flanders, and that it's about a big installment and not about 100 euro, because you are not going to transfer an amount of 100 euro. It's a bigger installment for different activities together, for example, for a half year or for a 1 year period, that you will transfer to the partner institution.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to Dr. Opondo.
Yes, thank you, Geraldine and Peter. My name is Dr. Florence Opondo from Kenya. I have two questions. The first one is on investment cost. Here in Kenya, it is very costly to buy equipment, and I'm seeing equipment is part of investment cost. So my question is it possible for a partner institution in Flemish to purchase an equipment for us and then transport it to Kenya? Then my second question is, I'm still a doctor, so I'm wondering if I can be a promoter, or a promoter just has to be a professor.
Okay, for your first question, it's a negotiation with the Flemish institution you will collaborate with if they are willing to do so. They can purchase in Belgium, it's allowed to purchase in Belgium, but of course you also have a shipment cost, you have the tax duties, so it's also increasing the total cost. You need to consider this also, but we do accept it, yeah. But this is a negotiation with the partner you are working with in Flanders. For the second question, if I understood well, you said I'm a PhD and can I be a promoter? Was this your question? Or did I misunderstood it?
Yeah, I already have a doctorate degree, so I'm asking, my title is still doctor. So my question is, can I be a promoter or for master's students or PhD students here in Kenya, and then collaborate with a professor?
And are you a lecturer? Are you teaching within the institution?
Yes. Oh, I am teaching at Moi University. I am teaching at Moi University here in Kenya.
If you are a lecturer, a professor, your doctor, and I have a quick look also at Peter, but you are eligible to submit.
Yes, you need an employment link which is clear and which is also relevant for the proposal. So lecturer, professor, assistant professor, but you need a clear employment link. So not a visiting professor who has no no salary or something. I'm just, it has to be a clear employment link. Now, the status of that can be different in terms of context. In some countries, it will always be a professor. In other contexts, it will be a lecturer. We also have certain differences at level of universities and universities of applied sciences on our side. So we're looking to the local, what is the local common status there?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to Madam Suwardi. I see we are almost, our time is almost finishing, so I want to wrap up a bit, but I will give you a chance to ask your question.
Yeah, quick question. Thank you for the opportunity. Could you please clarify about the overhead budget, overhead fee that you mentioned earlier, 5% to the Flemish institution and also 5% to the partner institution. And this remaining 5% to the partner institution must be also divided into different partner institution. My question is whether this remaining 5% should be divided equally between the partner institution, or we can define based on the each institution role and also contribution to the project. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, this is to discuss together. It's a joint project, so we discuss also these things together. But of course, I find it logic that it's upon the role you play, upon the activities that you will implement. So this is really an internal affairs how to divide it. But of course, yeah, you should take these things into account. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm going for a last question, and I'm going to Mr. Wardova.
Thank you very much, Geraldine. I really appreciate all of you for this very brief informative session. Follow up to the previous question on the coordination cost, because different institutions have different rates of overhead. And I asked a question in the chat whether we can consider the coordination cost as overhead, and it was a yes. But for instance, at Aremaya University, Ethiopia, where I work, we have a minimum overhead cost from each of the projects. So is it possible to include a separate overhead cost, or it is that the coordination cost is to be considered and we have to negotiate with our
Yeah, well, the coordination cost, we don't like to really call it an overhead because it really needs to serve the project. It's, for example, if you have cash withdrawal, that it comes with a cost. If you refuse cost, which amount, which budget will you cover this? You can have an accountant involved who will help with financial reporting. So it's not just a free budget that's going to the institution and they spend it how they would like to spend, it's not going to the overall pot, as we say. So this is one. A second, it is limited to 5% and you cannot include another overhead cost. So if it's too low for you, you have two choices: negotiate with the institution, or then, you will have to search for other funding opportunities. But within the SI call and all of the US calls, actually, for a partner, it's limited to 5%, and it needs to be divided if you have multiple partner institutions.
Thank you.
As I only see one hand raised, I will also give the opportunity for this to ask the last questions. And this is for Raisa Marie Bacas, no?
Okay, hello. I hope you can hear me well. My apology that I could not turn on my camera because of a weak internet connection. But I'm very curious because for the PhD funding, if I understood it correctly, the PhD student or the candidate will ride on the project, right? So that means all the expenses, the budget will be deducted from the 70,000 maximum budget allocation.
Well, a short initiative is a 2-year project. So it can be an explorative project, it can be a dissemination project, but it's not really about a PhD project. So a PhD study really needs to be embedded and be justified within the outcome you want, within the result you want to achieve within the SI project. Of course, an SI project is for 2 years. A PhD takes 4 years minimum if we don't count in a pre-doc studies. So, and I lost a bit your question, sorry. What was your... that it would take a lot of budget. This was your point. So you really need to justify. It is possible to budget it, but you need to justify, and it's only within the time frame of an SI. So the 2 years of an SI.
Okay, I think we
Okay,
really
thank you
need
so
to
much
round
for
up.
the-
I would like to add to the last one that if you go for a project with basically the cost of a PhD, you will not be very, it's not a good idea. It should be really part of it, but yeah, it's not the idea that 70 or 80% of the budget goes to one PhD. Then the commission will say, okay, this looks like a project which was just written to support a PhD. That's not the idea. There should be goals that are linked to the sustainable development challenges, and the PhD should be instrumental, but not, let's say, the core or the main part or the main reason for organizing the project.
Okay, thank you. Can I have one last
No, we
question,
have
like a
to,
quick-
I'm sorry, we really have to finalize. We're over time. We were going to finalize a
Okay,
few
no
minutes ago.
problem.
You can ask your questions still in the chat later, or you can add it here and we will try to respond. And otherwise, you can also still contact us, of course. There is no problem in contacting us and sending us a specific important question, clarification. But
Yeah,
we have
and
to
the
round up the
website
session.
itself, of course, and the call contains a lot of detailed information. So have a look at that. And if you can't find the concrete answer to your question, you can always email us at info@vlerios.be. I added this in the chat. So have a look at it and come back to us if needed.
Okay, thank you very much. So all information will be made available. These presentations will be made available on the website page, and we wish you a lot of success with your proposals. It's a bit competitive, but you see, there's a very, I mean, it's an important exercise. So try to come up with the best possible proposals, and we wish you the best of luck there. So thank you very much for being present in this session. Thanks to my colleagues for organizing together with me this session. So very happy that we were able to have a session with so many attendants. Thank you, and
Thank you.
bye-bye.